Feral cats are still a problem from the littlest to the biggest cities in America. Los Angeles is trying to come up with an answer, but plans are being hijacked by folks who believe in trap, neuter, and release. That doesn't work. PETA has a better answer. Next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this behind-the-scenes look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. Here we talk to the key players at PETA and the movement and ask them about how animal rights change their lives and how they stay motivated to make the world a better place for the animals. On today's episode, the feral cat issue has only gotten bigger, and Los Angeles is the latest to deal with it. One group wants to trap, neuter, and release the cats and then feed them, but PETA thinks that's a bad idea.
When you put food out, you're not just putting food out for those cats. You're putting food out for wildlife. It's not just raccoons and skunks, but it's also coyotes. So coyotes will be attracted to wherever outdoor cats are congregating, these quote-unquote feral cat colonies. And then people get angry because they're coming in and they're quote-unquote killing cats. And it's like, but you offered up a cat buffet to these animals. So if you are an animal rights person, if you are an animal protectionist, you must be opposed to abandoning cats outside, not only for the sake of those cats and the wildlife, but like coyotes who are losing their lives because we're luring them in with these cats. It is a massive, massive, multi-layered problem.
PETA Senior VP Lisa Lange says the best way is an aggressive spaying and neutering campaign from the start. But LA has a no-kill shelter philosophy, and that's dictating the city council's action. If cats are released and not sheltered, the city can boast a low kill rate. Not so great when the alternative to no-kill is slow kill, the slow eventual deaths of feral cats left to fend for themselves out in the streets. This is a major urban problem that's too often misunderstood. What should be done before Los Angeles finalizes its cat policy later this fall? My conversation with PETA's Senior VP Lisa Lange on the PETA Podcast. The issue of cats is always contentious among animal people, and our podcast audience is no different, especially when it comes to feral cats. So what are feral cats? And what is trap, neuter, and release, what people call TNR?
Well, feral cats, and, the definition of them has gotten kind of blurred, actually. But typically what feral cats are they're still domestic animals. Mm-hmm. But they're cats who are not able to adjust to, by and large, who are not able to adjust living in homes. So they have almost it's not a wild personality because they are domestic, but they're abandoned. They live outside and they are very afraid of people. They cannot be tamed. They're very hard to catch. We're seeing those numbers grow and grow and grow of feral cats and just homeless cats everywhere.
Well, these are cats who they're outdoor cats. Were they abandoned early as kittens, or were they abandoned later? Do we know, or can we sense what the population is like in that regard?
Yeah, I think by and large, they're animals. They come from cats who just were allowed to breed litter after litter, and no one was taking care of them. So they are abandoned and they have to fend for themselves. They don't like to be around people. It feels like a very dangerous world to them, but typically they're born outside. In some instances, it's also adult cats who are abandoned, but typically an adult cat who lived in a home and then was abandoned, who was a companion to someone. They aren't really feral. They can seek out the companionship of people and that kind of thing. But I think by and large, the ferals are the kittens who are born outside and just never really have any attention, love, or caretaking from humans. And so they just are suspicious of them.
And where do they live? I sometimes at night see a cat walking by me and it goes into the plants that, decorate the parking lot. And runs away as you try to approach it. I mean, where do they live? Where do they find a home?
It totally varies. Some of them you'll find on college campuses because people put food out or people leave food out. When they're done, they don't throw it away. So they'll forage for food wherever they can. You see them around dumpsters an awful lot, again, because there's discarded food there. They go wherever anyone leaves any food out. So a lot of people, really with the best intentions, will leave cat food out or just dump bags of cat food like in abandoned warehouses or in abandoned property where, there's construction sites, that kind of thing. You see that a lot there. People will just leave food out for them, afraid that they're going to starve without it. And that just leads to a lot of problems.
All right. So we are getting to numbers, and there's this sense that the population is growing. Do we have any idea of how many cats are in a metropolitan area? I mean, PETA's in Los Angeles, Washington. Yeah. Do we have a sense?
No, the problem is they are constantly breeding and there just isn't a good count on them. But we do know that the numbers are going up. In Los Angeles, for example, one of the problems that PETA has with these trap, neuter, and abandon programs with these animals is that it has been proven in study after study that trap, neutering, and putting cats back out on the street does not bring the number of homeless cats down. And we can get into the reasons why that is. But what it also does is it takes the focus and the resources away from what is the long-term solution, and that's prevention through spaying and neutering. So in Los Angeles, this year, cat and kitten intake have gone up 15 and 20%. And the reason for that is that there is not the focus and the resources are not being spent on spaying and neutering the cats who are out there. And who are in the shelters. It is up to the shelters to look after and give shelter to all animals, cats, dogs, any cat who is homeless. And that includes feral cats. They cannot fend for themselves. They're not super cats. They're not pumas. They're domestic cats living out on the streets where all manner of things can and do happen to them.
And so feral, that's the official word. They're essentially wild outdoor cats, right? But it doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean they can fend for themselves.
Right. Yeah, they can't. It's like, they're no better able at fending for themselves than if I were to open my door right now and invite my dog to just go run out in the street. Wish her well and say good luck to you. It makes absolutely no sense. They're domestic animals. They're, cats have it even harder than dogs. They're prey animals. So they have to contend with other dogs. They have to contend with people who will do them harm. They have to contend with wildlife like coyotes. And so it's a very dangerous world for them out there.
And if we only did more in terms of spaying and neutering, we wouldn't have this problem? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. The solution is bringing the numbers down. And the only way to do that is to, first of all, pass very rigorous spay-neuter ordinances, which we do have in Los Angeles. Since 2008, it's been mandatory to spay-neuter every cat and dog. But it has to be enforced. That's the thing. It has to be enforced. So when people have cats and they let them breed, and you see it all over, cats walking around who are constantly pregnant, and people don't feel that there are no repercussions for that when you just let your animal breed, because the city in Los Angeles, and I'm in Los Angeles, so I oversee our Let's Fix LA program, which is focusing on promoting spaying and neutering in the city and reminding the citizens about all the free and low-cost spay-neuter programs that abound in this city. And so we see it, and we know that people just feel there are no consequences because LA Animal Services has just been kind of ignoring it. Yeah. And, we've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and now the city is doing 2 months of free subsidized spay-neuter for cats. 2 months of it every year with our insistence. And they're also starting to pick up their canvassing program and going door to door and reminding people that if you do not spay or neuter your dog or cat, there is a hefty fine coming your way.
What is the fine?
Oh, they can fine someone up to $300, but essentially it's a fix-it ticket. So they'll show up at your door, they'll knock on your door and say, hey, is your animal spayed or neutered? And they'll give you 30 days to do it. And again, you can find a free clinic. PETA's also going door to door in some of the hardest hit areas for homelessness, animal homelessness in the city. And we're warning citizens. When animal control comes, you're going to get a ticket. When it's us, we're just giving you information, and we give them the calendar of the clinics where they can go, information on the benefits of spaying and neutering besides, bringing down the overpopulation crisis. And so we're out there doing our best. But while, people are allowing their cats to breed, I mean, these litters are up to 9, 12 kittens a litter.
Tell me, who's dropping the ball, though? Is it the owners? Are the owners just, like you said, ignoring it because they know there are no consequences? Or is it the city's fault for not taking it seriously enough?
Oh, I think it's a combination. The city took it seriously when they passed the spay-neuter ordinance, and that was wonderful. And then they just instantly didn't enforce it. I don't think that LA Animal Services, the head of LA Animal Services has been taking prevention seriously. The city has announced years ago that they wanted to become a quote unquote no-kill city. And so the focus has been since that time on the quote unquote save rate. And what that means to them is they really do not want animals coming in the shelter. And that's why they're so in favor of trap, neuter, and release. Because if you just leave cats on the street, then they don't count. They don't come into the shelter. And so those numbers don't count. And euthanasia numbers go down because though the vast majority of those animals are dying very young in gruesome ways on the street, those don't go into LA Animal Service figures. And so, it's a shell game. They want to reach a 90% save rate. And to do that, they're essentially advocating to keep cats on the street. And it is a dereliction of duty. It is appalling that anyone who professes to care about cats would ever be in favor of abandoning them on the street. And then, on top of that, if you call yourself an animal rights activist, or even less than that, if you consider yourself someone who loves animals and believes in animal protection, you cannot be in favor of abandoning cats on the street for the sake of the cats and all the animals they kill.
There are activists, though, who are saying, who are propping up this trap, neuter, and release idea. Mm-hmm. Explain what that is and why that's not the answer. You hinted at it just a second ago, but it seems to be the real controversy there in LA and no doubt in other places where the feral cat problem is also exists.
Yeah, the feral cat problem is a nationwide issue. I mean, just look at Hawaii, for example. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the TNR groups are divided on how to properly look after feral cat colonies. In Hawaii, there's an issue with, feral cats are taking over the islands and killing endangered seabirds. They're also, because of their, feces going everywhere, toxoplasmosis is a problem for endangered monk seals. The TNR groups were divided on this because, essentially what you want to do is if you have a feral cat colony, you want to breed it out of existence. You want to spay, neuter all those animals. And the responsible advocates for TNR say don't allow any new cats to be added to the colony. Because when you do, because colonies are essentially dumping grounds for people who don't want their cats anymore, then they start to breed, they get sick, they fight, that kind of thing. The people who are in favor of trap, neuter, and abandoning cats say that they're in favor of it because the alternative is euthanizing outdoor cats. And we're saying, we want to get to the root of the problem, and we don't want them born in the first place to be living outside as feral cats, abandoned with absolutely no protection. As long as you're focusing, though, on these feral cat colonies and throwing food out and allowing them to breed, we're never going to get to the solution.
So you said something interesting there. You called it trap, neuter, and abandon because it's not trap, neuter, and release. It really is abandon, right?
It's absolutely abandoning them. Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if they're trapping and neutering and releasing, it's almost, well, this is the response of the people who want no kill, right? They want shelters to be less into sheltering and less into spaying and neutering. They trap them, they neuter, and so the shelters have like you said, the low kill rate. So it satisfies a portion of those folks who want no kill. But
right.
What's the best thing for the cats?
I mean, it's very frustrating because when you talk to people who are in favor of abandoning cats on the street like this, you say you'd never do this to your own cats. I have 2 cats myself, and I think if I wouldn't do it to them, I'm not going to do it to a cat I don't have a relationship with. They're all the same. Yeah. And in addition to that, the nationwide outdoor cats kill 2.4 billion birds, and they kill an additional 12.3 billion, that's with a B, mammals. That is squirrels and rats and moles and all manner of animals. But it doesn't just stop there. People who put food out for feral cats, and let me say again, so many people do this with the best intentions. When you put food out, you're not just putting food out for those cats. You're putting food out for wildlife. So what we see is it's not just raccoons and skunks, but it's also coyotes. So coyotes will be attracted to wherever outdoor cats are congregating, these quote unquote feral cat colonies. And then there's an all call for killing coyotes. People get angry because they're coming in and they're quote unquote killing cats. And it's like, but you offered up a cat buffet to these animals. So they come in because you're feeding them, you're putting food out. And now we're killing coyotes as a result. So if you are an animal rights person, if you are an animal protectionist, you must be opposed to abandoning cats outside, not only for the sake of those cats, but all the animals they kill and the wildlife like coyotes who are losing their lives because we're luring them in with these cats. It is a massive, massive, multi-layered problem.
But Lisa, let me play devil's advocate here. Let's say I'm one of those animal rights people out there who sees what's happening. I know those cats are going to starve. So I get some food. I lay it out there for them because I know that this is going to help those cats because the cats can't scrounge around and find enough to eat. You see so many of those feral cats. They look like they're down to the bone, right? I'm being compassionate, right? I'm being compassionate by giving them food and they'll meet their fate. I mean, we're all animals. Let them be wild. I mean, feral means wild. Aren't I doing a good thing by putting food out there for them? I mean, it's got to be a sign of compassion, right?
Well, it generally is. I mean, it really is. I understand the motivation completely and totally. And, I mean, we were dealing with an issue with coyotes in Arcadia, California, where they wanted to trap and kill them. And we found out that one of the biggest issues was really kind people were going into the wash and putting food out for the coyotes because they thought they looked skinny. And it was like, no. If you put food out for them, they're going to come and then people are going to want to kill them. It's the same with cats. I mean, people are doing this by and large with the best of intentions. And so here's what we propose kind of as a intermediary step. So in Los Angeles right now, there's this appallingly irresponsible citywide cat program that's been, is being proposed. And we're opposed to it. And, there are some good people behind it and we understand their motivation, but we are opposed to it because it's bad for cats and it's bad for wildlife and it's bad for the environment. But cut to the chase. So what is PETA recommending? Okay. Do what, for example, Beverly Hills has done. If you want to maintain a feral cat colony, you have to be responsible, which means that we believe there should be a no roaming ordinance that goes along with any feral cat ordinance. So that means that you can maintain a feral cat colony, but those animals have to be confined in a way that they are safe. They are safe from cars. They are safe from people who will do them harm. And wildlife is safe for them. So it's a maintained feral cat colony in an enclosed area. Part of that has to be that the colony has to be registered to a caretaker. Someone has to say that they are responsible for those cats. Enough with the abandonment. That means that whoever registers that feral cat colony has to make sure that there are regular vet visits, that all the animals are spayed and neutered and vaccinated. Of course, there can be no new cats added to the colony, which means that if anyone dumps a new cat, that cat has to go immediately to the shelter.
Someone's got to take responsibility, though, right?
Yes, that's right.
I'm the captain of this colony, and I'm going to make sure that the roaming cat colony, people listening to this, hearing the phrase roaming cat or trying to maintain, cats to a confined space, they'll say, good luck, buddy. That's never going to happen, right? I mean, these are feral cats.
It can and it should. I mean, it's the only way to do it. You can't just say, well, I want to take care of them, but I don't really want to take care of them. I'm going to put food down, but I'm not really going to pay attention to their vet care. I'm not really going to count them and all of that. You're either in and you're in 100% for these cats, or you're out. This is the way to do it. And this is where there was a real rift in Hawaii. Is there was a feral cat group that believed that you had to be responsible. You have to keep those cats in a certain area so they do as little damage as possible and so that they're as safe as possible. But then another feral cat group moved in and did away with it. What we see over and over again too is that someone will kind of take care of a feral cat colony, like they'll put food down, but then they get ill themselves, or they move, or someone comes into this area and they're going to build on that abandoned, property. And so all the cats get moved out or killed. And then who's responsible? And there's not really anybody responsible.
So can your solution work? Can that proposal work in Los Angeles and be a model for other cities throughout the nation?
It should. Yeah, absolutely. All of these feral cat people who are coming forward and who are in favor of this citywide cat ordinance need to step up and be really responsible. Because right now what they're essentially saying is feral cats should be able to be outside. I mean, this citywide cat proposal is so bad that it doesn't even say just for feral cats. It's for homeless cats too. So say, for example, someone illegally abandons their cat. They move, they leave them behind. It happens all the time. Cat has no home, is scrounging for food, but is 100% tame. The city is proposing that whoever finds that cat should bring the cat in, get him spayed or neutered, and then put him back out on the street. What kind of life is that for that cat? That cat should be taken into the shelter to be given an opportunity to get a home with someone who will hopefully love them and never abandon them again. This is careless. And the reason it's happening is because they want to reach that 90% save rate, which means if you keep a large number of these animals out, then they won't count. But they do count. They count in all the ways that matter. They have the ability they feel fear, they feel hunger, they get sick. Many of these animals are hit by cars. They suffer from broken bones and diseases and infections, and they are out there on their own, and there's no excuse for it.
Yeah, and the people who take that attitude, that's the no-kill philosophy, which is what, the no-kill philosophy, it's the ironic thing about the no-kill philosophy. They don't want the shelters to do their jobs. They want it, and then they let the cats out free, and then the cats, it's bad for the cats. The no-kill philosophy ends up being bad for the cats.
Yeah. Oh, and dogs too. I mean, dogs. And if you talk to the people who are on the street, talk to the animal control officers who are doing society's dirty work and who get grief from people who are no-kill proponents all the time, or who work for rescue organizations who can't take on the animals because their shelters are full or because their foster systems are full, but they'll point the finger, and they love to call these shelters high kill shelters. And it's demeaning. It's putting the blame on absolutely the wrong people. These are the people who are out there scraping these cat bodies, these injured animals off the streets because they've been abandoned by people. You leave them out on the street and you turn around and you walk away. And we would never, ever do that to our own animals. But we're somehow willing to do it to a cat who doesn't have a name or who we've decided to call feral. and it's wrong. And there is a solution and we can reach it, but we will not reach any kind of a no-kill society until we achieve a no-birth one. But there's, the thing of it is, it's no fun to talk about spay neuter. It's a lot more fun to say, save them all. And 90% save rate. That's easy to fundraise on. That's a lot more fun to talk about. It's really fun to talk about bottle feeding kittens, but we would much rather talk to people about not having those kittens be born in the first place. Yes, they're super cute. Everybody loves kittens. But when I see one, and when I see some of these groups bragging about their bottle feeding programs, I want to scream. It's like, don't you instead not want them to be born in the first place? Because there aren't enough good homes.
Tell me about the time frame in Los Angeles right now to try to get some changes to the law. Or what's happening there? And then how do people elsewhere, around the world or around the country, how can they look at the Los Angeles example as a blueprint for what they can do in their own communities to help feral cats?
Yeah, or what they shouldn't do in their own communities. I think, because the city of Los Angeles, bear in mind, stepping off the animal issue, bear in mind this is a city with so many homeless people. I mean, we're sadly very famous for what's going on here for people living on the street. The city just spent close to $1 million to do an environmental impact report on feral cats so that they could move ahead with this citywide cat program. We know that feral cats have a negative impact on the environment just with birds alone, let alone, the feces and everything else. Mm-hmm. They spent close to $1 million on that. Wow. And now they're accepting public comments before they vote on the citywide cat program. Comments are due by the end of this month, and we're preparing ours. This is the wrong direction. And this is not how people should model their approach to cat behavior. The thing that the city is doing right is, again, the subsidized spay neuter for cats. They need to do more of it. 2 months isn't enough. The city is starting to get out and talk to people about spay neuter, but they're not doing enough of it. There's not really a model city in terms of bringing cat overpopulation down right now. But so it's all pretty distressing, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, really, we cats are suffering terribly because of these no-kill policies. And it's not no-kill, it's slow kill.
Slow killing, right. Well, and there's no shortage of these trap, neuter, and release, or as you put it, the trap, neuter, and abandon people who say that's the answer to the problem. And, I guess where I am in Northern California, I guess there are some people who trap and neuter and they release them and they put a notch on the ear of the cat. And we usually rescue dogs. I mean, that's why we have all our dogs but once one of, as they all go off into the, dog heaven, right? We have room for more animals, and we started seeing this cat and we couldn't take it to the shelter. We kept it, and we noticed the notch on its ear. And my wife, Kathy, said, "Hey, that's the community cat program here." And I guess that was like an official feral cat program or of some sort, or it sounds like. And this is an outdoor cat, but it's a domestic cat. It's not, it came back to us and we just kept it, and it's now our cat. It's now Emma Orange Peel, we call her, because she's an orange tabby. So if you're an Avengers fan, but,
yes,
it's like, I just have, I just opened up to this issue recently because I know I always saw the feral cats in shopping centers or in, supermarket parking lots, but I never really understood until I saw this cat and this cat came into my life. So I know that trap, neuter, and abandon doesn't work because these aren't wild cats. They want to come to a home. Yeah. And we were there to adopt her, fortunately. But others, once they are out there with trap, neuter, and and released, they really are abandoned and they're fending for themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they love to lump them, just call them all feral cats. And it's like, no, it's like you're Emma. You know, a lot of these cats lived with someone else and they were just abandoned. And they're not wild in the least. They just have no home. But it's just easy. You know, when I got into a discussion with the proponents of TNR who were with Best Friends a few years ago, Best Friends is an organization that's, pushes the TNR stuff. And I was like, well, what are you saying to people who are feeding feral cat colonies in, cities where the weather extremes, they're not like Southern California. I mean, it's not good for the cats here and definitely not good for wildlife here. But what about all those really cold cities? Like you're telling people, get them spayed and neutered, release them, notch their ears so that it's clear, who's spayed or neutered. That's why they cut the ears like that. Mm-hmm. But those cats are freezing. Like, how do you go to sleep at night knowing that, we're inside warm with our lucky companion animals and they're out there freezing? There's no warmth for them. There's no warmth from people. There's no saving them from from storms, from hurricanes, from snowstorms, from rain, from flooding. They die that way. And the people who are in favor of TNR will often say, well, at least they have a fighting chance. I mean, that's the thing. The idea behind the no-kill movement and people who believe in the no-kill policies are, well, at least the animal's breathing in and out. But the deal is, no, there's more to life than that. There's more to life for us. There's more to life to the companion animals we have in our homes. What we're not talking about is quality of life. And that's what PETA wants to talk about. Every animal deserves a good quality of life. And if you can't give them that, then there's a problem. No animal should be born into a homeless situation. They should all live like my two cats and dogs, my dog and your Emma and your dogs live. Why are some less deserving of that? I don't understand how animal rights people can advocate for that.
Well, I certainly am much more empathetic ever since Emma came into our life. And ever since I saw I see the notch on her ear and I see what people were trying to do. But thank goodness we were able to give her a home. So, Lisa, I hope things are better with the Los Angeles situation. We'll be getting back to you about that and some other things.
There are some TNR groups in Los Angeles who we don't agree with on, leaving cats out, but they're also hugely strong advocates for spay neuter. Yeah. And that's really useful. Like they want the same outcome we do. We just, in the meantime, we don't agree with each other on the abandonment of cats, but there are some really good groups. The larger ones, not so much. I mean, some of the larger groups, like Best Friends, have even come out in opposition to mandatory spay-neuter ordinances. Yeah. And that's appalling to me. Even though they do advocate spay-neuter, they're not doing it enough. But some of the smaller groups who are out there actually on the street, picking up cats, getting them spayed and neutered, and then releasing them, they're really trying to bring those numbers down. And we do appreciate that. So there is agreement between the groups on that issue.
Well, Lisa, we will continue to connect with you to follow up on what's happening down in LA and also nationwide with the feral cat issue. Thank you for being on the PETA Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
PETA Senior VP Lisa Lange on the feral cat issue in Los Angeles. Right now, the proposal for a city cat policy is far from a model American cities can emulate. It would be if they listened to PETA and were aggressively enforcing existing spay-neuter laws. For more, go to PETA.org. That's our program. You can contact us at PETA.org. You can also find me on Twitter at Emilamuk. That's EMILAMOK. Or on aldef.org/blog. That's AALDEF.org/blog. blog or amok.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Music is provided by Carbon Works. Check them out on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. Join us next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.